Welcome back to Spank Ranch Garage. Today, and for the previous couple nights and mornings and whatever, we're working on this crappy old John Deere 410. This is with the boom all the way out. You don't need all this extra hose here. So, I'm gonna get these remade and I'll have them pull like 18 inches out of that. It should be good. All right, first batch of hoses going to the hydraulic shop. So I leave notes on all of them. Replicate ×4. These are 4 stabilizer hoses. It's a power steering hose, just need one of those. And then also like this one here was that Extend-A-Hoe one. We're gonna replicate but shorten 24 inches. These are those 6 little hoses that go to the manifold on the backhoe. We're gonna do those while we're at it. Now, a lot of people like to run hoses to failure. I totally don't blame you because they are expensive. So this backhoe, I'm expecting 800 bucks just in hoses, just because there's so many of them, and hoses are not cheap. But one of the main reasons I'm doing this is I can't run them to failure because I keep the machine in a remote area 7 hours from here, and I only have a handful of hours per month to operate it. So if I get there and I blow a hose right away, the day's shot, the weekend shot. I'm not gonna get a hose in time to get back to being productive. So I do have to spend a little bit more up front to ensure this reliability, but it just is what it is. There's really no way around it. All right, so first batch of hoses is ready. Got the 4 stabilizer hoses, power steering, accumulator, backhoe manifold, and then a couple of the hoses for the boom here. $364 out the door, and it was ready in like 23 hours. So that's just it. It is what it is. It seems expensive, and this machine needs probably 2 or 3 times what I already bought. If you guys are worried if your hydraulic shop's ripping you off or not, go on titanfittings.com. They make pre-made hoses that you can order online. They only come in standard lengths. They're not willing to make custom lengths, and if they are, it's very expensive. But you can at least look at a price of a 60-inch hose, and if you dropped a 58-inch hose off at your shop, compare the price, see if they're ripping you off. The shop that I'm working with now seems to be very reasonable. They beat Titan's prices on everything. There's no shipping, and it's ready within 24 hours. So can't beat that. This thing's the accumulator. This is another thing I should get into and just to confirm that it's working. Basically, it's a nitrogen charged piston, and the intent of it is to provide intermediate pressure as the pump is going into stroke. So if you had a totally tight system, which we probably don't, and you pull on a lever and you create hydraulic demand, the accumulator is supposed to dump. By the time it runs out of fluid, the pump should be up to stroke and you should have really smooth, seamless hydraulic action. I think that's a little bit much to ask on a machine this old, so I don't really care. But anyway, the power steering does run off of this accumulator, and I guess pretty much everything else, except for maybe the loader. Not sure. Also just found that you're supposed to be checking the hydraulic fluid with the engine running at idle and the transmission in park, and I have not been doing that. I've been doing it with the engine off. I was taking a morning doozer, and I happened to have the operator manual for this handy, so I was just flipping through it and learned that. So it's good to know that stuff. Nice. Yeah, so these hoses I call primary because they're in the loop all the time. Anything after a valve, let's say you blew a stabilizer hose, if you weren't really digging heavy that day, whatever, you could still finish off the day. No fluid's gonna flow. But this is right off the pump feed. So this hose, you know, this is a day ruiner. This thing blows, it's over, you're done. You'll pump all the fluid on the ground in just a matter of seconds. So anything that's on the constant pressure stream like this, steering, brakes, accumulator, these are some of your most vulnerable hoses on the machine. So if you're on a budget and you're wondering what should I replace, well, look at what's always under pressure, replace those, and then your accessories, go from there. $310 after tax. for all of the hoses to replace on the loader. So all 8, boom up, boom down, bucket curl, bucket dump. All these hoses need to come off and go back on in a specific order, because you just won't get a wrench on certain hoses until you've gotten something else out of the way. See, these fittings can't be loose either, or you're gonna have a leak there. And taking the hoses off, a lot of times you inadvertently break these loose, so no better time than now to get those tight. Of course, I'm working through this little 8-inch hole. That was a fighter. These hoses may be original if this thing hasn't been repainted, I don't know. That's scary. 50-year-old hoses, I'm just waiting for my day. One good thing I got going is the new hoses are smaller diameter. The outer jacket is smaller. Whether those factory Deere ones are swollen or what, they're way bigger. Maybe they're just better. Maybe that's why they lasted 50 years, but it makes routing these new ones a lot easier. You got a lot more room. One thing that's cool, these new Tecton angle wrenches, they're made in USA, which I'm a huge fan of. But they got these angles figured out. You flip this wrench enough times, you're going to be able to hit that fastener no matter what. And it's key for these types of hydraulic lines where, you know, you're fishing around under crap. You know, sometimes you can hit it from the side, which is nice. You don't need to get a crow foot in. You get right in there. All right, all loader hoses, all 8 are replaced. Not that fun of a job. I probably got 2 or 3 hours into that. It's messy, it's dirty, it's a pain in the butt, but being that you have to take these off in a very sequential order to get to them, you don't want to do this out in the field. You know, I already have the floor pan out, I already have the dash out, cross member out. This is the time to do it. I know it's not for everybody, but to me, it's worth way more than $300 to blow one of these hoses out in the woods somewhere and have to deal with this another time. So this should be good for the foreseeable future. All right, so these are not really fun either. Man, these angle wrenches, you can't do it without it. I don't know how you would. Maybe crow's feet, you could make it happen. But anyway, I pulled all 6 of the lines off of the manifold block here from the backhoe controls. And like anything, now I'm realizing I'm never going to be able to get in here to hit the left and right swing cylinder hoses again. So now's the time to do those. I didn't plan on that. I don't have them here. So I think I'm going to pull them as well. Yeah, we're going to get those made. We'll come back to that. And then it looks like also to do the stabilizer lines over here, which I do have. I need to pull off the main backhoe feeds here. So more hoses, more oil leaks. This is a disgusting job. There's just no way to do this cleanly. I mean, there's just oil dripping on everything. I got to wash this whole machine again afterwards. But it's the next day. I pulled off the main feeds to the backhoe. And holy crap, this hose is already about to blow. So that means that's going to have to get replaced. I had to pull these off to get to the stabilizer hoses over here. Now I'm looking at the swing cylinder lines. Those are crap as well as the extend-a-hoe lines. And the feeds for the extend-a-hoe. This one's starting to swell. So now it's like, all right, we're deep into this box here, but wait, there's more. Under here is where the backhoe valve is fed, where we also tee in the extend-a-hoe, and then there's an additional leg running over there. That is for an old jackhammer setup that was on this thing. So you can see some remains of it here, this rear auxiliary. This one is actually still live, which is crazy. And then over here, you have a main feed that's plugged off. And then you've actually got an auxiliary valve over here, another foot valve. And this was used, I would say, for a breaker, a jackhammer at some point in history, but it's been compromised and pieces are missing. So I think now's my time to get in there and clean all that up and set myself up for a future hydraulic thumb. So that'll be another episode. We're gonna hop over this for now, move on to some other things. But yeah, I wanna clean up under the floor in there, get rid of all the old obsolete lines, and leave myself 2 ports that I can plumb in a hydraulic thumb when we get to that part of the project. Yeah, and the reason I want to clean this up is because all these hoses are on the main charge loop. So if one of these ruptures, you'll blow 20 gallons of fluid on the ground in less than a minute. Yeah, see this tire? There's not a lot of tread left. You can try the bead breaker on the tire machine, but I think this is a bit much of an ask. Wow, I'm impressed by that. Hell yeah, brother. Oh. Oh. Come on, baby. So it does have a tube in it. We'll try to be sensitive to that. Maybe we'll tube it again. Honestly, the wheel's not in too bad a shape for the age of this thing. I expected that to be rusted to crap. We know this tube holds air. Is it absolutely silly to reuse a tube? Probably, but there's nothing wrong with it. We got a brand new D-Stone, baby. Look at that tread. This tire weighs more than probably the tire and wheel combo I just took off. For whatever reason, I think it's a higher ply, maybe. That's okay. These are 11L16 tires. Not wildly common, but not wildly uncommon either. Tube looks fairly happy in there. Let's see if we can get it on without screwing it up. That's what I was worried of, starting to twist it there. Bead, I don't like that. That's not good. That answers that question. I somehow ripped the hell out of the tube. Sick! Aren't we learning here? Yeah, that's a nice gouge there. That's gonna leak. Nice job. Freaking idiot. Now this wheel does not take a normal automotive valve stem as part of the issue. Right, I don't believe, maybe that is? Is that a 450? That doesn't look like a 453 wheel hole. Can't be. Nah, that's got to be one of them big boys. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the tube versus tubeless thing, I like tubeless because then I can plug it if you get a nail hole. But if you have like a total sidewall rip, you ain't fixing that. Tubes add another layer of durability, but also they add a layer of complexity because you can't patch or plug them without dismounting the tire. So it is kind of a double-edged sword. I certainly get it on these old machines, the rotted tires and leaky wheels, why you would want tubes. But I think this wheel is in pretty good shape, and obviously the tire's new, so we might get away with tubeless for a long time. Well, things went a lot smoother on this tire. I was able to save the tube, but the tube seemed different. The tube like slid on the rim nicely and stuff. The other one was stretched onto the wheel really tight. Almost like it was maybe made for a 15-inch wheel. So maybe that didn't even have the right tube in it, or most likely I just suck. But I'll make a couple excuses here and there. We'll say that wasn't the right tube in that one. It's nice seeing some fresh rubber on there. Makes this thing look like a little bit less of a turd than it actually is. We'll get to the rear tires, future episode. No tube. Yeah, how much life do we think is left in these? This might last 10 years, it might last 2 hours. You just don't know, so I get weird about these hoses. A couple minutes later, maybe hours, got the swing lines off, the power or the main feed to the backhoe block gone. All of the extend-a-hoe lines are out, and under the floor is drastically cleaned up. We've just got supply and return. So it's time to simplify all of that. This is the load that's going to go to the hydraulic shop tomorrow, and this is how we're looking for progress. That's a lot of hoses replaced. I appreciate the suspension, not the blown out bottom. One thing I do have to do is weigh this stupid thing. Getting this out of the cab, holy crap. I think it's gonna be 85 pounds or more. Of course, my light's freaking out. Never mind, it's 115.9 pounds, this damn seat. I had to lift this out through the back window of the cab, so I couldn't get it through the door. And then I dropped it onto the grass. To get this thing back in, I'm either gonna have to disassemble it into smaller pieces and bring it in, or like fork it through the back window with the skid steer or something. 115 pounds on this seat, that is insane. Honestly, that's a pretty good look. Now this seat has like an independent reclining frame. How do you adjust that? This lever maybe? Could probably recline this right into the factory seat frame like that. Yeah. That actually fits really nice. Got its own seat belt, probably better than this one, just because this one's so torn up. Alright, so now I still have independent back adjustment. If I so choose, I get a little bit. It's been a couple days, well actually weeks, but I finally got all of the hoses changed, minus the extend-to-hoe hoses, ignore them for now. All of this is new. Every single hose that goes into this rear block. Stabilizer hoses, swing cylinder hoses, all the hoses to that manifold block. Every single hose going to the front end loader. So the only thing left are, I believe, 4 power steering hoses. We'll do these hoses when we actually get into working on this hoe here. We haven't really started on this yet. This needs a lot of work. So if you're looking to buy your own old backhoe and they say, oh, it just needs a couple hoses, well, here's about 31 of them here. Another thing is the tachometer cable here. So the previous people were more of a hack job than me, and instead of removing it from the tack before removing the dash, they just pulled on it and destroyed it. So unfortunately that's a $150 problem. Got a new cable from Deere, and on this it actually goes into the bell housing, like in the direction of the starter here. It goes in through the back, and that is actually super hard to get to and see. You can see down here where that throttle linkage is, right where the foot pedal throttle goes. That's where it goes into that bell housing thing. That's going to be an absolute doozer. With this stuff out of the way, that's a tough ask. That is really down in there. Make this harness a little. That's tough. Got it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, that's not cool, my friends. The end is broken off in the engine. Oh, man. So it looks like there's supposed to be like a, you know, some type of crimped end here that engages with something. And it is gone. It is just broken cable inside of this. Oh, man. Probably a split the tractor type job to fix that. And I'm not sure I'm that invested in having a working tachometer. I mean, where could the piece have gone? It's potentially possible it fell out and fell into the bell housing area, which I'd be hype about. I guess we could try to feed a new cable in, but I don't have a great feeling about this situation. Oh wow. I mean, it's grabbing something or it's jamming into something, but that wouldn't be enough to get my sleeve on there, I don't think. Yeah, nah, it's got to go in another 2 inches. I don't know, I'm going to play with this a little bit. We might get lucky, but oh boys, I think we got stupid lucky here. This cable seems taut. Seems like it's got something holding it. Oh, look at that! We have tachometer action. And what other hoses do I have off? I hear something blowing in the back, but anyway. Wow, very cool. Just went to test the next step of it, and it looks like the end is broken off in the tachometer as well. So maybe these people weren't as much of a hack job as I thought. Maybe this cable legitimately failed and they had to tear it out. Alright, time for some very gentle surgery here. So, it looks like to me, well, you guys won't be able to see down there, but the square end of the cable is broken off in here, as well as potentially part of the cable is still in that piece. So I'm thinking I'm going to plunge on it with an 1/8 inch end mill, try to hog out the majority of it, and then maybe we'll get lucky and get a self-tapping screw in there or something to extract that. Oh man, it ain't looking pretty in there at all. Alright, so I ended up drilling that cable piece out to, I think the thread was 348, number 3 machine screw. It's super tiny. Got a tap started in it, could not get the piece out. Broke the tap, got the broken piece out, but we're still without a working tachometer. So now we have to start getting a little more destructive, unfortunately. So the way this works is they've rolled this lip over. There's probably an O-ring behind here, and this is either glass or polycarb. I think I'm going to roll this along the belt sander until we get through this lip and hopefully get the face off. And then when I drop these screws out, I should be able to push the guts through, at least see if the rest of the tack is savable, maybe get this part apart so we can do something better with it. I don't know, but getting desperate now. So that's pretty much exactly what I want to do. I want to get this lip thin enough to where it peels away. And that'll allow me to pretty much separate the front face from this back lip here. And I can see there is a seal there. That's perfect. We're not even going to damage that O-ring. Yeah, see that? So we'll get to peel this back ring off. Can lift this off. Oh yeah, baby. Get that out my way. So now what do we see? Anything we can work with? It looks like it's just a counterweight with a magnet? And this magnet's supposed to spin in this cage, and it doesn't. It's seized. So that's why the cable's bad. So now we have our root cause of the failure. Now how do we fix is the next question here. Got some coil action going on in here. It's starting to loosen up. We're going to use the iPhone tack because my other tack is dead. Alright, there it is. So this drill spins 410 RPM in high gear, or in low gear, wide open. So I don't know why, well, anyway, that's a whole nother story. It says 550 on the advertisements. So now when we say that's camshaft speed, that means we should see 820 RPMs on the tack. So let's see about that. It's close enough to me. Close enough for the work we're doing on this 40 or 50-year-old machine. Just making an RTV sandwich on this to seal this up. Hopefully that'll hold the glass and the front bezel on. This is in an enclosed cab, so it's not exposed to the weather typically. So it'll probably be okay. If not, I'll probably ditch the gasket and tack weld it back together. 4 days later, and we have an interior in this thing. Got the new seat in. Ended up putting it in 3 pieces because it was so heavy. Hour meter's working, horn button works. I got front lights, rear lights, and what's really exciting is I got everything on the dash working other than the little light. So you got oil pressure, charging, fuel, temp. We even have a tachometer, boys, and the wiper motor even works. But I don't have an arm for it out here, so I gotta look in to see what that's gonna take. The heater is wired up, but the fan motor is locked up, so that's gonna need work. This loader doesn't sound so great. The bottom bucket pins here, not looking so healthy. We might get into that, we might not. well guys, she passed her first little test dig. Nothing really went wrong, though there are things that are wrong. So first being, well, I'll show you. These handles are so slopped out that when it's time to dump the bucket, the lever hits the stabilizer lever. We're not getting full throw of the valve. See, that just moves like a 1/4 inch. When you go the other way, it moves a lot more. So it takes forever to dump your bucket. 2, it just doesn't feel like it has the power it should. Not sure exactly what the deal is with that. I think we're gonna have to investigate some relief valves here, and I notice we have a small leak as well. That is a swing cylinder. There's oil coming out of the boot, so that valve spool is leaking. So that's something we got to take a look at. It's interesting because it didn't do that until I started working it. So that's kind of how this is going to go. We got to use the machine, see where the next failure points are. But things just don't feel strong. For some reason, the bucket curl feels very weak, and so does the extend-a-hoe, but all the other functions feel good. So I'm wondering if they have internal relief valves here. Curl shouldn't, I thought. Yeah, curl is straight through. I don't see a relief valve on curl, so maybe I just wasn't being patient, or we're not getting the correct flow there. But anyway, we got the teeth shined up there, digging into those millings. The loader, man, she makes some bad noises, that's for sure. We got to address these bucket pins here. And 2, I'm not very good at using this loader. I've been running a skid steer for a long time. I've never actually had a front end loader. So not being able to see anything from the bucket is definitely challenging. So that's something, learning curve for me to get figured out. Plus our bucket level indicator is broken here. This thing seized up and broke off, so I don't know, really can't see if the bucket's flat or not. That's an easy fix. And then we are now leaking some coolant, so that's nice. We'll figure out where that's coming from as well. So we got a lot done on this episode. Saving the tachometer, I think, was a really nice touch to make this thing seem less crappy. Having all the instruments on the panel work is nice. New seat, floors mostly back in. Got all my forward gears, all my reverse gears, brake, clutch, reverser. You know, everything works. And we replaced every single hose on the tractor minus the power steering hoses. We'll get into the hoe hoses when we get this thing taken all apart. Taking wobble sticks to the next level here. Next time you see this machine, we'll probably be getting into the actual backhoe portion of it, figuring out some of these pressure issues, changing all the lines on the hoe, and then getting into the hydraulic thumb. That's 3. The hydraulic thumb design that I'm working on. I think that's going to add a lot of usability to this tractor. So anyway, like always, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I appreciate hearing from you, and I'll see you next time on Spank Ranch Garage.